Hey, Rosebud. Hey, you come on late because you have something to do and like people are just not here. So I'm just gonna go here and find my status. I got a status here somewhere. I think I got mentioned here. Yeah. And we're live and see if everybody shows up. And I think this is the right account. Yes, that is the right account. So hey, ADM FLA GOURL 38. So hopefully everybody will eventually catch on that we are live and they will show up. And I don't know the trouble with having multiple accounts is sometimes you forget which one you tweeted from. So just go see. And one of my devices is being mean to me tonight. It does not want to let me log in. It instead wants me to create a new account, which is just not any good. So let me just quote this tweet and say, "We are live. We are live." Okay. So, you know, people expect me to come on time and you know, I get that. I I get that, but we have all these social media accounts and things and it's like, you should be able to tell people by a social media account that you're going to be late. And then they should show up when you come on late. I don't know. So we'll just see when they show up. Uh, I go over the show title in case you didn't read the whole show title. And I can blow that up. And I can show that. Which one is that? Which tab is that? Okay, it's the one called Tonight Show. So here's the agenda for tonight's show, at least according to the announcement. The announcement's this Freedom Speech and You for Sunday, 3/19/2023. Episode is called Goodbye, Tiny Tuesday, Goodbye. It's called that because you might have to take a Q decoder ring to figure it out. But I'll just tell you, Donald Trump stated that he will be arrested on 3/21/2023. Maybe he's fascinated with 3/21 because he got some rocket engine dust on himself from a certain rocket engine magnate. Nah, it's just the latest grift from the grift master himself. Get the MAGA to donate and obfuscate the truth to the maximum in an effort to overload the system so no one can arrest him. But if he forgets about the National Guard and he forgets his little coup of January 6, 2021, alerted everyone to exactly what kind of game he plays, a very dirty one. Let's talk about this and much more on tonight's show. So yes, no house show tomorrow. Thank you. It's good for people to know that. Hi, Casper Northerner. So we're trying to assemble everybody here. We don't have a nickname for you all yet. Maybe you all should create a nickname for yourself. Maybe that's a cool thing to talk about while we wait for everybody else to show up here. You all think you should have a nickname? Would you create a name for yourself? But anyway, that's just a thought. Okay. I will repeat this when Nick Rich gets here, and I don't believe he's here yet. We got 7 people so far. But I'll deal with a light topic till everybody gets here and hope that they get here. So here's the light topic that I will repeat near the end of the show. Do, 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 do. So, Relatively Space has posted when they're going to do Terran 1 rocket. And Terran 1 rocket is the rocket that is 3D printed about 85%. They've announced the date of Wednesday, March 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And that is when the launch window opens, and it stays open until 1 a.m. for people who believe that the next day doesn't start until 6 a.m. You're going to still think that's Wednesday night. But for the rest of us who do time scientifically, that's Thursday, March 23 at 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Those are the local times at Cape Canaveral at Launch Complex 16. Launch Complex 16 is closest to Cape Canaveral, the port of Cape Canaveral. In comparison to all the other launch sites that have been utilized recently, and 16 is just now being utilized after not being utilized for several years. And it's on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and the trajectory going is east. So your ideal location to watch this launch would be from the southern side of the island that composes Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and Kennedy Space Center. And your ideal viewing location would be down the beach so that you could look northward, but you could go the other side and look southward from Titusville. I mean, obviously, if the hey, Nick Rich, how you doing? Good to have you here. Obviously, if the weather is good in all places, you'll see it from all places. It's just my opinion that you would see it better from Cape Canaveral. The times for those converting times that are watching this are 2 a.m. GMT or 0200 UTC. That is the launch window opening on the 23rd of March, because in UTC time and GMT time, it's already Thursday. And it closes at 5 a.m. GMT or 0500 UTC. So that's if you're converting from other time zones. It is Relatively Space. It is Terran 1 rocket. It is not reusable yet. It is a 3D printed rocket, 85% printed. And its mission name is Good Luck, Have Fun, because it's just a test mission. Future versions of Terran rockets, Terran R's to be specific, will be reusable. Also, we said this last week, but we'll say it this week. It is expected that they could build a rocket every 60 days, which is extremely fascinating that they could create a rocket so quickly. So that is extremely fascinating. But that's the schedule so far, unless things change. So that was our light topic for the start of the show. Hey, good to see you, Nick. Nick, you can mess up my name. Just don't mess up calling me for dinner. Okay. So where are we? The topic. I mean, you're going to see all this talk about Trump and his stuff. You've seen on Hal Sparks' show, if you watch Hal Sparks. And if you don't, you should be watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. I just highly recommend it. We won't go over all that stuff. But you see Trump, he's talking about how he's going to get arrested on Tuesday. And he's telling his supporters to, protest and quote unquote save the country, as he always does. He may be using different words right now. Doesn't matter. It's always about saving the country with Trump. But really, That's what he says. What it's really about is trying to save his ass from getting arrested. So he says these things over and over again. And he incites his supporters to do such things as we're about to show on Twitter. Now, this tweet is from Angry Staffer, which is the name of a person on Twitter, I'm sure. And Angry Staffer comes up with something that Legate, William Legate, has tweeted about. Angry Staffer's comment says, "Hi, Heidi. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. Hi, Jim. So Angry Staffer says this is what he wanted. It's not going to work, but this is what he wanted. And what's quoted here is content coming, I suppose, from Truth Social. And Legate prefaces it by saying Trump's radical supporters are planning on surrounding Mar-a-Lago and using rifles to shoot law enforcement on scene to arrest Trump. And you can't see this because it's compartmentalized. It's previewed. But when I click on it, you can see it. So Sir Coffee says, surround Mar-a-Lago or wherever he currently is and prevent law enforcement from entering. Plasma responds, best comment here should be pinned. Hanging Chad says, what if they use choppers to circumvent Patriot Moat? Gun Fairy says, medium caliber rifles are surprisingly effective against low-flying aircraft. And I guess that is supposed to be 7mm. So I'm not a gun aficionado. That could be numbers that actually mean 7mm weapons, 22 caliber, which is actually .223, and .308, I presume being 30-08. I've heard those numbers. I'm not a person who likes guns or has guns, so I don't know all those things. Hey, welcome, Carl Smith. Carl Smith says, yes, it's me, the live stream pest. Good evening, Ken and Andrea. Okay. Big talk from a bunch of PABs. Yep. Watching 45 is embarrassing. He lies all the time. Why believe him now? I don't believe him now. But they do. They believe him now. Reza said Trump not getting arrested Tuesday. He lied. He just wanted to get his minions to protest. His lawyers will arrange for him to surrender to New York DA in private. No perp walk, says Jim. Domestic terrorists are traitors, says Nick Rich. So, yeah. What else is in this thread? I don't know. Is there more to this thread? Legate says, I blew the whistle on Jan 6 in the days and even weeks leading up to it. The amount of calls for violence and terrorism I'm seeing from Trump's base regarding his arrest far exceeded what I saw leading up to January 6. I've seen hundreds of calls to execute law enforcement. I'm not surprised, Legate. This is what they do. Legate says, note, DeSantis made it a felony to peacefully protest in the streets of Florida, and he legalized running over protesters with cars. It would be interesting to see what happens to Trump's violent mob on Tuesday. Indeed, it will. Dauber responds, hope you reported it. I posted it publicly on here. The FBI is active on Twitter. Mr. Neuerberger says, likes, yikes. I hope the FBI is plugged into chats like this. I'm sure they are. Better to submit it here. Yep, send it to the FBI. Legate says, I know for a fact they read my Twitter. No need to report it twice. Michelle tries to complain about it, saying you basically posted for clicks we give you out of disgust, not to be unselfishly proactive in preventing violence. Yeah, I know. There are people like that. So we'll just see. I mean, personally, I would like to see our government basically say, hey, last time you pulled the wool over our eyes, this time we got you. So, hey, Nathaniel, welcome on Facebook. So we got a couple on Facebook tonight. Yep, 2 on Facebook, 8 on YouTube, unless the counters are lying. So I'm looking for a moniker like Sparkers. How about Autobots? Not bad, Carl Smith. That's a thought. Freedom Autobots. Not bad. We'll see how the gang likes that. Because after all, they have to like it too. It's not for me to pick the name. The show's about you all. So where are we at? This one I really want to get to real quick. Autobots, I love it. Says Rosebud. So Madam, the royal madam, said to somebody, Trump isn't getting arrested, sweetly. Can't even do that right. Okay, so Autobots. See, that the thing about Autobots is I'll have to remember what the phrase is from what is that show called? Shoot, I can see it, but I can't think of it. Oh, Transformers. That's it. Yeah. I'll have to remember what the phrase is from Transformers. I'll look it up. So she says Trump isn't getting arrested sweetly. Yeah, he's not getting arrested sweetly. He's just getting arrested. She meant to say sweetie. She put an L in there that she didn't need to put in there. And who is she writing to? She's writing to Stormy Daniels, who said, so he lied again, because that's what Tiny said in his own social media post. And now you know why it's goodbye, Tiny Tuesday, goodbye. That's why the show is titled that tonight. I wanted to get to that really quick for you so you would understand the show title. Because initially I thought about, initially I thought about Ruby Tuesday, the song, and I thought, no, can't do something, that plagiarizes the Beatles. And then I saw that post and I went, yep, that works. So we are talking about Trump. I am going to show you this because this is something that Republicans repeatedly use. It's a phrase they like to use. The phrase that they like to use is supposed to insinuate that even though their numbers as registered don't, hey, good evening, TV2 Live. Okay, so thank you for sharing. So Trumpers hang on to something Republicans have always used, a phrase they've always used, and the phrase they've always used is they've always referenced the silent majority. And her sign says the silent majority stands with Trump. The premise of this, if you're somehow not familiar, but I certainly believe you probably are familiar. But the premise of the so-called silent majority is that there's always this group of people. Excuse me one second. I'll mute the microphone while I take a drink. The premise is there's always this group of people who doesn't vote in most elections, who will come out when necessary to stand with the Republican Party. And they always talk about the silent majority as those group of people. And they always say that, you know, essentially pointing the finger at the Democratic Party and saying, if you do something bad enough, the silent majority will come out and they'll vote with us and they'll do this and they'll do that. Well, the silent majority didn't stand with Trump because he didn't win in 2020. The silent majority that they think stands with them came out and voted against Trump. Carl Smith says, considering the meaning of bots, an autonomous program on the internet or another network that can interact with systems or users, Autobots aren't autonomous. We're really real and care about freedom. So anyway, this is what they say. Well, Trump supporters are threatening to leave the United States as Trump's indicted. What do you say to them? Now, there's a thread here. But Don Otto, believe it or not, he calls himself Mr. Don Otto, AUTO. Wear a mask, get vaccinated. Says, dearest Trump terrorist darlings, we have afternoons free and millions of volunteers to pack you up to get you out of the United States. We hear Russia and North Korea are lovely in the springtime. Sincerely, America. Now, what else is in this thread? Let's see what's in the thread. By the way, this is called activism on Twitter. Trump says he'll run again even if he's indicted. Democrats, we prefer to call ourselves the Democratic Party, could invoke the 14th Amendment to ban him from running in 2024. Sign here if they should. So that's a petition. Jacob asks, where are they going to go? Majority of other countries have sensible gun control, universal health care, cleaner air, things they don't support. Exactly, Jacob. Their options are opinion says. Their options are limited. Seriously, who would want them? Yes. What else did Jacob have to say? Maybe Canadians should build a wall to keep MAGA morons out. And then MAGA Republicans will pay for it. Very good, Jacob. That's funny. Alcatraz is available. Sorry, I keep hovering over the wrong thing. Bermuda Triangle is available. Jay Arnold says, I'll help you pack. No need for a toothbrush. Jeff says, please do. Everyone would thank them for at least three things: their contribution to the country, leaving us pure and sweet joy. There is no sorrow. They reduce drag on the economy. Far too many are takers, and their contribution to making everyone smarter. Go to Russia, sign up, and support your motherland. I won't read that one, but yes. So, yeah, just, the sentiment is definitely there. So the sentiment is definitely there for them to leave. What did I put, personally, I put a thing on that when I wrote it. Oh, when I created that topic, I put the following term: not silent, because they aren't silent. They are very loud and very vocal. And they're not a majority, because they didn't win the 2020 election. So again, the sign is completely false because they're not silent and they're not a majority. Okay. No, Trump has all these supporters because of his alleged arrest on Tuesday and his claims that they have to fight back. Because, you know, all the Republicans that support Trump can do is hang with him because they really think that's the only way that they have of getting anything going. It's their future as long as he's still a viable candidate for their party. So Lev Parnas goes, first, this traitor worked with Russian assets to disseminate disinformation through the halls of Congress. Now he's working with Giuliani to disseminating misinformation on Twitter. Why don't you tell the American people the truth about the hard tribe? The truth is coming. Lev remembers, says his tweet. And what he's responding to is Ron Johnson saying, and I quote, I'm glad to see the Biden crime family is getting some much deserved attention. Unfortunately, we have an equal application of justice and a mainstream news media that encourages and supports it. And he has a Twitter thing. So, which he's retweeting the subject. And they're still bringing up the 1994 crime bill. And the non-existent laptop. And supposed crimes of the supposed Biden crime family. And he's talking about this Marco Polo report. Marco Polo report. Does that mean that he's in a pool somewhere in Florida going Marco Polo, Marco Polo? Or was he playing polo with Marco Rubio? I don't know. He's not worth playing. It's trying to say that Biden's received money from Chinese businessmen. When, if anybody received money from Chinese business people, it was Trump with all his deals. And all this stuff, all this unproven stuff about Biden. Like, you can't prove any of that stuff in court. If you could, you would. So, not to be outdone, Mike Pence was on This Week with ABC, or as it's typically called, just This Week, or This Week with George Stephanopoulos, except Georgie wasn't there. Let's go. Where is this audio? I'm gonna get a copyright strike for this audio, I bet. Hang on. Take that out. Where is that playing from? Gonna have to share it without audio so that I don't get a copyright strike. So later on, when I need audio and I don't have audio, remind me that I turn that off. Okay. So Pence was on with co-anchor Jonathan Karl on Sunday. And this is a transcript, which I'm going to read you because I don't want Disney to give me the copyright strike. Karl asked Pence, Mr. Vice President, thank you for joining here in Iowa. Okay. First of all, it should be Mr. Former Vice President, but then they do put that in his title. I'm sure you've seen, says Karl, that Donald Trump is saying he's going to be indicted on Tuesday. He's calling for people to protest. We don't know if that's true. The Manhattan DA has not said anything about it, but he's calling for people to protest. Is that irresponsible? And of course, here comes Pence, who should say something different, saying the following. Well, first, let me say, says Pence, I'm taken aback at the idea of indicting a former president of the United States. Why the fuck not, Mike Pence? He broke the frickin' law at a time when there's crime wave in New York City. What crime wave in New York City? Excuse me, Mike Pence. Why didn't you and the former president get rid of this crime wave in New York City? You were supposed to clean up everything. You were supposed to clean up the supposed swamp. You were supposed to support law enforcement. Instead, you got a boss, your former president, who goes around telling people to beat up on cops and break their way into the public building and create a shitstorm and do whatever else they want to do because he's unhappy that he lost the election. Anyway, I continue with what Pence said. The fact that the Manhattan DA thinks that indicting former President Trump, is his top priority, I think it is, just tells you everything you need to know about the radical left in this country. No, it doesn't tell me anything I need to know about the radical left in this country. Because one DA does not represent the whole country. And not all of the people on the left are radicals. If you want radicals, point to those people that support this guy that you support, Mike Pence. It's the last 5 years, he says. Sorry, wrong mouse. Democrats, I disagree with him using that word. I like Democratic Party members, have been dismantling tough criminal justice in the city of New York. No, we have not. Families are paying the price, and yet this is what we get. The old game of, well, don't arrest Donald Trump, just go arrest everybody else because everybody else is so bad. Let Donald Trump do whatever you want. That's what Mike Pence is playing. I hope that if Mike Pence had been killed, his wife would not have acted like him. I hope she would have wanted Trump and everybody else prosecuted for his crimes. But if Pence continues, it just feels like a politically charged prosecution here. No, a politically charged prosecution is your party going after Joe Biden because you don't like his policies and creating a narrative that calls his family a crime family when your party contains the actual real crime family of Donald John Trump. Pence continues, and I, for my part, I just feel like it's just not what the American people want to see. Maybe 70-some billion people who voted for Donald Trump, if they still want to vote for Donald Trump, maybe a much smaller percentage of that people, but not the majority of the American people, Mr. Former Vice President. Trump continues, we got real challenges in this country today. People are facing record inflation. Yeah, I wonder why. Because your people on the right are fucking the system up with their oil prices? He continues, a crisis on our border. What crisis? We're catching more people who are trying to get across it. That's not a crisis. Show me the freaking crisis. You can't. You can show me a looping video over and over again of people being caught. That doesn't prove anything. That's myopia. That's only looking at a small portion of it. You're not looking at the whole picture. He continues, we have war in Eastern Europe. Yeah, we got war in Eastern Europe because your former boss fucked the shit up and let Russia build all that shit up and said, well, I love Putin. American people are anxious about the future, he says, and here we go again. They're anxious about the future because your damn Fox News, your right side broadcasting, and the rest of the fuckers out there on the right are telling them to be anxious. Jesus. How fucking stupid do you have to be? They're anxious because you create the anxiety. He continued, back into another politically charged prosecution directed at the former president of the United States. I would just hope for better. Yeah, you'd like for this shit to go away because you like to not be associated with it because you know that this shit sticks to you and it's going to keep you from getting elected. Because your people in the Republican Party are not going to vote for you. You're a freaking rhino to them. And the rest of people are not going to vote for you because they're going to see how freaking spineless you are saying bullshit like this. I don't know who he listens to. I don't know who he listens to. It's almost like somebody who loves Trump is twisting Pence's arm, saying, you will tote the line. Carl continued with his question, but he's calling on people to protest, to come out and protest, take our nation back, are his words. We know what happened the last time he said that. Yes, we do, Carl. Pence responds, well, John, the American people have a constitutional right to peaceably assemble and express their, and Carl cuts him off and says, absolutely, but to have a former president calling people to protest a justice proceeding. Pence continues, the frustration American people feel about what they sense as a two-tiered justice system in this country. I think it is well-founded, but I believe that people understand it if they give a voice to this. If this occurs on Tuesday, that they need to do so peacefully in a lawful manner. Oh, like they did on Jan 6? Fuck no, they don't understand. Go back and read what we showed earlier. The majority of the people are peaceful. The majority of the people might go to the street corner and support Trump and raise their Trump girl signs and raise their Trump girl shirts or whatever, do whatever they do. The ones who don't commit crime but still support this horrible man that lives in Mar-a-Lago. But some people, vice president, former vice president, are going to create a problem. And the point is, he should not be inciting violence. He should not be allowed to incite violence. He should not have his freedom of speech to do such a thing. And yet he still does. Pence continued, the violence that occurred on Jan 6th, the violence that occurred in cities throughout this country in the summer was a disgrace. Okay, so he tries to once again equate the protest for George Floyd with Jan 6. He tries to equate George Floyd protests with Jan 6. But you can't do that because you, my good friends, know this. People who protested because of George Floyd or Black Lives Matter in general did so, for the most part, peacefully. And in many cases, you can find independent video that shows that there were people that came in, committed acts of violence, and left, and they came in suits to hide their appearance. They were not ordinary protesters. There were people there designed to disrupt and damage, vandalize businesses to create a narrative that there was something bad going on when most of what was going on was good. Yes, there were cities like Portland that were taken over. Yes, certain people got very fed up and got violent. But those are not the majority of the people. His statement that the American people won't tolerate it and those that engage in that kind of violence should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, yes. But equating Jan 6 with George Floyd protesters, peaceful ones, there's no equity there. You're talking about people that broke into a federal building, the People's House, vandalized the building, destroyed the building, attempted to stop the transfer of power, put excrement in the building, disgraced themselves tremendously, to use one of Trump's favorite words. Just makes me mad that they try to compare the two. There is no comparison. Carl says, but you see, he's a former president possibly about to be indicted, and it's unprecedented. Aren't his actions unprecedented? I mean, we never saw a presidential candidate give $130,000 to a porn star to keep her from talking. I mean, those are unprecedented action. And Pence goes, well, John, these events transpired before I even joined the national ticket, so I can't speak to the merits of the case. In other words, Pence basically says, whatever happened before happened before. It's what happened in Trumpville stays in Trumpville in Pence's eyes. Mike Pence, I really have to ask you. I really have to ask you, Mike Pence. If you weren't a married man and you were about to marry a woman who had sex with a porn star and paid her money to shut up and not tell you, and you suddenly found out about it, would you go, well, that happened before I met you, it's okay? No, the fuck you would not. So if it matters, then it matters in regard to a president, and what he does matters. And it happened 2 weeks before the election, as Carl points out. So it wasn't a case. And then Pence goes, I can't speak to the merits of the case. You're innocent until proven guilty. Well, that much is true. But you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But when we arrest you, you're not proven guilty. So therefore, if you're alleged to have committed a crime, we can arrest you. You can't say we cannot arrest you just because you're not yet proven guilty. So it's not unprecedented to arrest somebody who has proven over and over again to a grand jury that there's just cause to arrest him, because it ain't just people in political office saying arrest this guy. If there's an arrest made, a grand jury said, yes, you should do this, or somebody of people said, yes, you have a case. Yes, you can do this. They don't just go arresting people for fun and shits and grins. Trump's not a black person. He don't get arrested just for driving a car in the wrong city. Pence is trying to say that it has something to do with media and da 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 da. But Pence keeps saying that there's somehow politicization in the Justice Department. Carl asks, do you think people should be protesting the courthouse? Pence says, I think the American people have the right to let their voice be heard. Well, then, damn it, Mike Pence. What the fuck do you think was going on in the middle of summer? You want all those people arrested for letting their voices be heard about George Floyd. Where's your sense of equity, Pence? Carl asked him, what do you think of Kevin McCarthy coming out denouncing this and saying there's going to be a congressional investigation in all this? Do you want federal interference in what is done by a Manhattan DA or district attorney? Pence responds, John, I got to tell you, as I travel around the country, people are very concerned about the politicization we've seen in the Justice Department. Jesus fucking Christ, Pence. Man, you're making me cuss left and right. You're supposed to be from the party that believes in states' rights. And you're saying that people around the country want the federal government involved in something that takes place in the New York City court? The disingenuousness of it all. I need another drink of water. Hang on. Jim says in the end, it's up to the final jury to decide his guilt. Nick Rich says Pence is as dense as cement. I think so. Maybe that's why the fly was just on his head, couldn't penetrate the cement. He goes on here saying, during the Trump-Pence administration, we saw FBI agents that were falsifying documents to obtain search warrants we found about politics, driving decision at the highest level, and again in New York City. So again, he's shitting on top of the FBI, trying to say that the FBI is just a political tool. But the FBI answers to the administration. The FBI is a part of the executive branch. Did you not pass school? And then he goes and says, no one's above the law, but you have the Attorney General campaign promised to get a particular American indicted, and you have other Democratic officials that pledge the same. This is not equal justice before the law. You know, it's probable that they should not have come out and said at the microphone that they were going to do this and do that. It gives fodder to this bullshit from Pence. But at the same time, Pence talks all the time about what the American people want. The American people want these people to prosecute Donald John Trump for his crimes. And when they want that, they want them to come to the microphone and say what they're going to do, because they want to know that they elected people to those offices that doing what they're supposed to do, upholding the law. So Carl says he would have the right to defend himself, be heard by a jury of his peers, and asks if Pence has faith in the system. Whether you think about the prosecution, he's got a chance to defend himself. Then Pence says, I no doubt President Trump knows how to take care of himself. What a funny statement, because taken out of context, he doesn't take very good care of himself. And Pence continues, and he will. But that doesn't make it right to have a politically charged prosecution, again with the politics. And then he goes and talks about living in a very divided country. Who divided it, dude? It was your party that helped divide it. We ought to be healing our country. Yes, you ought to be healing your country, but instead, you're out there creating more derision and division. We ought to be finding ways of bringing Americans together. Oh, God. From the party that separates people all the time. He continues, we're facing real challenges in this country. And then he starts complaining about the price of eggs and the price of gasoline. Pence, if you're worried about the price of eggs and gasoline, you really should just, talk to the people that get the gasoline, and you should talk to the people who sell it. I mean, you should talk to those rich people that funded your campaign, Pence. And he goes and talks about the 5 million people coming to America and the fentanyl and all this other stuff. If so many people are coming to America every single day, why am I not inundated with these people in Florida? If there's so much fentanyl coming in every day, I mean, there is fentanyl coming in, don't get me wrong, and there are people dying. But if it's coming in at the scope and nature which the Republican Party would have us believe, then why aren't there dead people all over the streets every single day? Instead of Trump, who was last week harping on the dirty city, why didn't Trump get out there and say, and please don't do this, Trump, but why didn't he get out there and say, there's so many dead people out there. They all died of fentanyl. I had to send the National Guard up to clean up the streets, all the dead people all over the place. You're lying, Pence. You're lying. Your party is lying. He goes, the American people want to see leaders in Washington who focus on the issues they care about. That's exactly what the Democratic Party is doing and concerned about. And he goes on and on and on about this politically motivated prosecution, blah, 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 blah. Obfuscate, obfuscate, obfuscate. Carl asked him, I want to ask you about your recent remarks with Donald Trump and Jan 6. You said history will hold Donald Trump accountable. How? Pence responded, he'll face the judgment of history, and I believe in the fullness of time that history will hold Donald Trump accountable for the events of Jan 6, as it will other people that were involved. Okay, so he is for prosecuting Trump for January 6th. He just thinks that the Stormy Daniels stuff doesn't matter. But see, here's the counterintuitive thing about that. If Stormy Daniels doesn't matter for Donald Trump, then why in the hell does Hunter Biden matter? Why in the hell does anything alleged to be done by Hunter Biden matter? It doesn't. Carl asks, in what ways what will history say about his action? Pence said it'll be the judgment of history. I truly believe it. I also think American people will have their say. I mean, the president is now a candidate for office again. He's running for election. But as I go around the country, I'm convinced the American people have learned the lessons of that day. They've internalized what they've learned over the last 2 years, including your good work on this topic. They know what happened. They know the fact the president's reckless words endangered people at the Capitol that day, including me and my family. And I believe they'll factor all that in as they make decisions going forward in this country. Again, I honestly can tell you, I just think that the American people want leaders in Washington. They want voices in the national debate that are focused on the issues that are affecting their life. They'll make their own judgment about what happened Jan 6th. They'll make their own judgment about this administration and its failures at home and abroad. In your eyes, not mine. And I think ultimately history will hold Donald Trump accountable for that day. Carl says Trump actually said in response to what you said recently, but Jan 6 was your fault, that if he had done what he was asking to do, thrown out those electoral votes, you wouldn't have the Jan 6 as we know it. That's what he said. What do you make of that? It was your fault. You were to blame. Well, I know one of the attorneys that was advising the president said the same thing in text on January 6th, but his attorneys were wrong. And Carl says, John Eastman, President Trump is wrong. Then he goes into his spiel. I know by God's grace we did our duty that day to act out, express our language, la, 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 the Constitution, the United States, la, 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 send electoral votes to Congress. They can consider objections, but at the end of the day, the job of Congress is to open account electoral votes certified by the states, no more or less. We did our duty that day to ensure peaceful transfer of power under the Constitution. Carl says, he says, in many ways, you can blame him, meaning Pence, for Jan 6, meaning you were the one that had to be evacuated, that was facing calls for people saying they want to hang you. In many ways, how can he say blame you for Jan 6? It's one of the reasons why, despite the fact that the president and I actually parted amicably when we left the White House and spoke several times in the week that followed that, I saw him return to that type of rhetoric in spring of 21. We've gone our separate ways. I know we did our duty that day. President continues to have strong difference of opinion about my responsibilities that day, but I trust the actions, judgment of history of the American people. I think this country love our Constitution and want to see elected officials uphold the Constitution, stand on the foundation of it. And whatever the future holds for me and my family, will always aspire to do that. And then Carl plays in the audio of Trump saying, in regards to Pence, I thought he was well protected. I heard he was in good shape. Or he was in very good shape, but no. And then Trump says he could have got killed basically, but the people were very angry. They were saying hang Mike Pence, and Trump says, because it's common sense, John, common sense you're supposed to protect. How can you know a vote is fraudulent And he's still talking about this fraudulent bullshit on his interview back in 2021. And Pence says there's no excuse for the violence that took place Jan 6. So you diminished it all the thing. And then he goes and talks about COVID, changing the rules of the election. He says because of the rule changes that Congress should debate the objections, consider the facts, but then move forward. And he talks about it, his role. Carl asks, you said in 2020, President Trump is a man of his word. Do you still believe that? He's still proud of Trump's record, but is he a man of his word? Asked Carl. And he goes on one issue after another. We kept our word to American people. Goes through the litany of things that he claims that he kept the word on. And then Carl tries to get him to say that his present word is his bond. He goes into the details about his book. What else does he have in here? Then he asks him about the special counsel. And Pence says, I'm limited on what I can say about proceedings related to the grand jury. And speaks about separation of powers. Hi, Jolie. He goes on and talks about his belief that he doesn't have to testify against Trump on Jan 6, but he'll obey the court of law. So will he ever testify? That's a good question. And says we'll wait and see in court. And he goes on and says nobody's above the law. And yet we went through that whole entire diatribe about how he thinks that Trump can't be prosecuted for this and that. Is this about his desire to run? Are you running for president? He's giving serious consideration to it. He's thinking about it. And he says he's getting closer to it. He is solid on Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is not a territorial dispute. It's a Russian invasion. It's just the latest instance of Russia attempting to redraw international lines by force in the United States. America must continue at cooking pace to provide Ukrainian military the support that they need to repel the Russian invasion, and the stakes are highest. This is a test of American leadership and a test, frankly, of the free world. As the leader of the free world, as the arsenal of democracy, America needs to continue to ensure that Ukrainian military has what they need. Anybody that thinks Putin will stop as he overruns Ukraine has got another thing coming, and there's no doubt in my mind that Baltics would be next. That influence in Eastern Europe, and difference would, once he crosses the NATO country, have no choice but to send American servicemen and Bruce in harm's way. Pence says of DeSantis' position on Ukraine, there are voices in our party that don't see a vital American interest in Ukraine, but I see it differently. I believe in Reagan doctrine that used to say back in the 80s, if you're willing to fight the communists there, we'll give you what you need. We don't have to fight them here. So Chris Christie said DeSantis was naive and think he would just walk away. I my friends think that DeSantis' position is to just try to co-opt Trump's position, to try to co-opt it and stick to this usual narrative that somehow by spending money on anything that's outside this country, they're not spending enough money on this country itself and the people of this country itself, and the so-called problems of the people of this country. So okay, so there's a couple of suggestions from the audience that came in today. Okay, so one of the suggestions for topics today was I've been thinking about online friendships. Psychology Today has a lot of articles about it. In essence, all friendships are going to be voluntary relationships. As much as we might like to be able to force friend a person, it's not something we can force to happen, just as some friendships are really reflections of who we are at a certain point in our lives, but nothing more. Some online friendships will only be able to exist when they are restricted to the virtual world, where we can share and be whatever we want with a sense of safety from more public exposure, said Wes. And Wes used this article as a guide. And this is a topic that really sticks to me because I always have people tell me that online friendships are not as good as in-person friendships. And most of us that are here know this, not true. This is by Suzanne Deggs White, PhD. It is in Psychology Today. Will online friends make the face-to-face cut is the title. It's not big enough. I got to make it bigger. A lot of us have been reaching out to solidify connections with our support networks as we navigate our own personal lockdown living. Some of us also probably turn to the vast pool of online support options, as many of us felt the need to create a safety net or wide array of social and emotional support options. When we're faced with a crisis, one of our first responses might be to seek our support. There's logic behind this saying, there's safety in numbers. It's human nature to create and rely on a social support network, and with the internet, we've been able to reach out to people around the globe and share our experiences over the past months. Some of these relationships may have heated up due to the crisis situation we found ourselves facing. As we begin to acclimate to the new routines and work arrangements we're in, we may be wondering about our ability to maintain these close connections, as well as wondering about our interest in maintaining them. So what makes a friendship, she asked. For any relationship to count as a friendship, several factors must be present. These include mutual affinity, mutual respect, and reciprocity. I think I'm saying that right. The most basic purpose of a friendship is to provide support similar to family relationships in the best of circumstances. However, friendships are unique in that they are totally voluntary relationships. You can't make a person like you or want to socially engage with you if they have no interest in doing so. Exactly. The three most common motivating factors of friendship and development include shared interests, shared activities, or proximity. Well, sweeties and handsome guys out there, if you allow me to call you that, in case of having to say your name. We definitely have a shared interest. We like to get together each week. We like to talk about stuff. We like to chat in the chat rooms. So we have that shared interest. We have this shared activity that we do each week. And this interactivity brings us closer together. However, we also tend to subconsciously measure the potential value or appropriateness of a new friend by things such as their appearance, their status, their values, and their similarity to ourselves. Personally, the beauty of online is you don't necessarily know the person's appearance. You don't know if that picture matches them. In some cases, you don't know anything about their status. In some cases, you don't know anything about their values. And in some cases, you don't really know if they're similar to yourself or not. You don't even really know their gender in a lot of cases. I could admit to a lot of times not knowing what the gender was. I thought it was this gender, and it turned out to be that gender. Our face-to-face social lives tend to be more conscripted to these factors than they do in our online lives. Yes, as exampled by what I just said. When we're in an online environment, we tend to focus on individual qualities and experiences, more culturally bound or culturally influenced factors. Well, for one thing, when you're online, you can't see if somebody's outfit is tugging and showing something. When you're online, you can't see if there's something spilled on somebody's outfit. You can't see if they tore their outfit. You can't even tell if they have an outfit on, for that matter. You have to just figure that they do or they don't. Make it up on your own. It's usually pretty easy to build an online support network through formal and informal pathways, and whether you're seeking advice on a particular topic or responding to others' posts, or those who respond to your own social media posts. Yep. The people that respond to you seem to be empathetic unless they prove themselves otherwise. Unfortunately, sometimes I have to admit to thinking there's complete lack of empathy if somebody doesn't respond. You're not wearing any pants. Hi, Aaron West. You're not wearing any pants? I'm not wearing pants, West Webb. I'm wearing shorts. Yes, I do wear shorts. See if I can stand up. Can I show you? Those are shorts down there somewhere. Can you see me? I have shorts on in case I accidentally walk off and leave the camera on. So I do have clothing on. Not wearing any pants. Oh, Wes, you cracked me up. You really cracked me up. In an online environment, people are typically seeking out people who share our hobbies, interests, and experiences. Yes, as I said before, we want to connect with people who reflect our passions or our feelings about topics that we value, such as social issues. Ha ha ha, social issues, here we are. Political issues, ha ha ha, here we are. And contemporary culture. Well, we do occasionally delve into contemporary culture. You didn't see any shorts. Okay. The things I have to do. There are shorts. Oh my God. Want to connect with people who reflect our passions or feelings about topics that we value, such as social issues, political issues, or contemporary culture. We like to connect with those who are experiencing the events or transitions that we are experiencing, such as new mothers and home bakers. We also connect over hobbies, such as fellow kayakers, armchair travelers, or Disney World fans. Health and personal challenges also lead us to reach out to those who are facing similar things, such as 12-step groups or disease illness specific support groups. While few of us are actually going to meet up with online friends, real world strangers, a lot of us would like to. There's less concern about how others see them and more about what they mean to us and what we gain from the relationship. In addition to more time we spend with someone, the more likely we are to begin to like them and feel a connection. If we visit an online support group or online chat group on a regular and consistent basis, hello, online chat group, the more likely we are to begin to see the group members or chat partners as friends. Hi, friends. Do we have Robert Reynolds here? Did Robert Reynolds sneak in? TMI, Rosebud. Dark secrets may be more easily shared online. A benefit of online friends is the freedom we feel to share information with those we are unlikely to ever meet in person, as we don't feel later shame with that feeling or retroactive embarrassment. It's like the willingness to share more personal information with others in stalled elevators or in happenstance transient friendships that pop up over vacation, a summer camp, etc. Yes, but a certain insurance company ad would have trouble with your stalled elevators idea. There's a greater sense of anonymity and less concern about what will this person think of me. Class, chat room class, I think there's plenty of us that are worried about how others think about us. We are unlikely to be seeing this person on a frequent basis, so we won't be reminded of the vulnerability and personal revelations. Our confessions are limited to a containable space and shared with people we actually never have to engage with again if we choose not to. The TMI in chat. I'm sorry, Aaron. Oh, God. Some of these people. Wes, maybe you should have invited the article writer to chat. I think the article writer would have got another article out of tonight's chat. The article writer asked, pandemic friends may disappear when pandemic fears subside, while some online friendships deepen over time and endure for decades. There has to be more to a relationship than just one shared preference or experience. Friendships that flourish require you to invest in the time, energy, and support. Oh my goodness. Time, energy, and support. Mods, thank you for your time, your energy, and your support. And regular chatters, thank you for your time, your energy, and your support. Boy, do you put it in. Most important aspect of friendship longevity has to do with the ability of the relationship to handle the dynamic nature of individuals. People are not static. We are changing and developing every day. If a friendship is too brittle or based on a single shared commonality, it is unlikely to have the depth and resilience to thrive as each person moves through life. While we all have friends from different stages of our lives, and seeing them may take us back in our minds to that time when their presence in our lives was so valued. If we don't have enough connections beyond that one shared thing, the relationship won't endure. Yes, got to be able to stick through the tough times. People are not always going to be friendly. They want to be friendly with you, but sometimes they're having a bad day, and that translates into what they say and do. And if your friendship endures that, then it was meant to endure that. Will our new online friends make the face-to-face world friendship cut? While we're only engaging in online connections, we're focused on the similarities between us and others. However, when we're thinking of moving to a face-to-face relationship, we may become keenly aware of the differences between us and our online friends. Friends out there, I've spoken in past shows, I know I have, about being on an online dial-up chat bulletin board, and how everyone had a persona on that board, and they had a handle. That was my first occurrence with handles in a dial-up bulletin board that, for all intents and purposes, could be compared to the old, not gold, the old AOL chat rooms where people had nicknames, or as we sometimes call them, handles, and you knew them by that. And so they took on a persona based on how they talked and acted in chat and what their name was. And the nature of that was that you perceived the person to look a certain way and to act a certain way and to be really cool, like not like a 50s cool cat, but for lack of a better comparison, most people are familiar with the movie Grease. If you're not, go watch it. But you have the greasers in Grease, or you have the cool kids who hang out and work on cars. Now, suppose you're chatting with somebody that you think is the cool kid that works out on a car. And that's their chat persona. And then you meet them face to face. And all of a sudden, the cool kid with the chat persona and the car guru and whatever might still be a car guru, but when you meet them face to face, they look more like a geek. They look more like a computer jockey. Might still be good at cars, they might still know all the lingo and the language, but now they don't look like what you thought they looked like. So that's what the article is asking, is will the online persona that built a friendship with you keep up the friendship when you meet face to face? Good question. You never know until you do. Not only does the depth of the connection matter, so does our willingness to let the part of ourselves that we may have shared in pseudo-anonymity and confidentially, excuse me, I wanted to say confidentiality. I don't know why. Pseudo-anonymity and confidentially online show up in our real lives. If the bond is built on the love of a travel destination, we may plan a destination meetup. This can become an annual pilgrimage for the experience that may lead us to realize that one face-to-face meetup may be enough for a lifetime. If that's a perfectly acceptable online friend turns out to be totally unacceptable as a friend in real life, whatever reason might be. Now, you could theorize there that if you think the person is cool and they turn out not to be cool, or to just use an example, if you thought they were cool and they were clean and calm and collected and finely mannered, and they turn out to be rude, then you're probably not going to want to meet them again. And if that rudeness extends to a poor sense of personal hygiene or a bad habit, like passing gas, for instance, then you're probably not going to want to meet up with them again. Another aspect of moving online friendships in the real world is that when we share online, we're doing so in the comfort and privacy of our own homes. We are controlling the audience, the setting, in our communications. When we build friendships in face-to-face settings, we're losing any sense of anonymity and are being exposed in a way that some online connections cannot survive for whatever reason. Yeah, because you see me from this much up, and as you were wont to ask earlier, you don't see the shorts. You don't know what's below. You don't know if I was wearing the shorts until I proved it. Or you don't know if I'm thin from this part up and super fat down below without seeing it. So, yeah, if you thought you were meeting somebody that wasn't fat and you're averse to fatness, then you got a problem. In essence, all friendships are going to be voluntary relationships, and as much as we might like to be able to force a friend in person, it's not something we can force to happen, just as some friendships are really reflections of who we were at a certain point in our lives and nothing more. Some online friendships will only be able to exist when they're restricted to the virtual world, where we can share and be whatever we want with a sense of safety from more public exposure. Yes, she could have written this about, and I can't say too much about them because I'm not supposed to. That's part of the Second Life agreement. But she could have written that last paragraph about people that were on Second Life that I met who were very happy with their Second Life persona, and they didn't want people to find out about their real life persona. And they still, to this day, share their Second Life persona on Facebook because they don't like their real life persona. There were interactions with Wes. Wes did say, how do we all gravitate to each other? Where do we see online relationships taking place? Okay, well, how do we gravitate toward each other? Most of us in this chat got together because we were on House Sparks together. Anybody else who landed here because they found the thing. Jim says, I bet none of you know I'm really 7 foot tall, 150 pounds with a third vestigial arm, and my nose is in the middle of my forehead. Oh, Jim, you crack me up. You're so funny. But we got together because of House Sparks. Where do we see online relationships taking the place of real ones? In my life, I see online relationship taking the place of real ones primarily because of COVID-19. I also see it enables me to have friendships without leaving the house. Time constraints. Most of you don't know that I have a health problem, which I prefer not to discuss online, but I have a health problem that limits my ability to be out and be social. It's not a life-threatening health problem, but it does affect how often I can go out and be out in public. So it's a physical problem. That's all I'll say. Templeton said, I don't know about you all, but I've been meeting people online since 99. For me, it's more normal to make friends in person that I started online. The other way around, even now, many of my close friends I met through the meetup, but I suppose that's not quite the same thing. And Jim said, outside of family, the only friendships I have are online, although in the past couple of years, I've reconnected with a few grade school chums, but haven't seen some of them since 89. But I hope you didn't mind me reading this. Okay. Jim, we're glad to have you here. And in Templeton, if you watch this later, we are glad to have you here. I know you do check in from time to time. Probably threw you off tonight because of the late start time. And unfortunately, I had to do that because I had to take care of a friend who needed assistance going to the grocery store. Wes says NEA teamed up with AOL and others to build the network. When they offered free and easy email in 93, teachers signed up. We had chat rooms and teacher pager for online help with homework. Some of us met at gatherings, usually scheduled around NEA conventions. I got pretty close to a few of them. Now dead or out of touch, but I keep making new friends online. The older I get, the more trouble it is to prepare to go out. Yes, indeed. So that was that. So thank you for that chat suggestion. So that was the chat suggestion one. To know me is to love sweatpants and t-shirts, says Jim. What did Nick squeeze? Nick Rich says woke as an acronym has limits, but here's another one: woke week or keep education. You stood up. I didn't see any fat. Nice try, though. Thanks, Rosebud. To some people, I still am fat. So, yeah. There was a tweet today. That simply mentioned Kepler 442. When I was going looking for tweets related to space, don't worry, Jim, it's not a bad tweet. This one leads to something good, something interesting. It said Kepler 442, so I looked at it. So what is Kepler 442? Kepler 442 has a more scientific name. It's an Earth-sized exoplanet, which is likely rocky, orbiting within the habitable zone of the K-type main sequence star Kepler 442. Its distance is 1,206 light years, 370 parsecs from Earth in the constellation of Lyra. It goes into full detail. Discovered by the Kepler spacecraft. It has an orbital period of 112.3 days. Talks about mass and all that other stuff. It's one of our potential candidates for habitability. Its parent star is 40% less massive than the sun. So it could have a lifespan of 30 billion years. So if our sun goes out and we can get to this planet as a human species, we may have a place to live. And somewhere in here, it talked about that's talking about the sun, but somewhere in here it talked about the gravitational pull being 30% stronger than Earth, so you would weigh more, unfortunately, there. Have to work harder to walk around. Thing about this Wikipedia article is every time I hover over something, it wants to expand it. It says that the star that, in other words, the sun that is around it, is a K-type star, and it's more likely to threaten their life, but they think that that life-threatening period has started. Hi, Benny Loco. It says that it will rotate more slowly than Earth, and a day could be weeks or months long. Now, if you thought you had a long work day, imagine being there where a day is weeks or months long in comparison. This rating of habitable planets says Earth has a rating of 0.829, but this planet has a rating of 0.836. But the actual habitability is uncertain because the atmosphere and surface are unknown. So obviously we'd have to send something there to find out what the atmosphere and surface are. It's 1,200 light years distance. It's too remote. It's too far away from current telescopes to determine its mass or whether it has an atmosphere. So it'd be a while before we'd be able to send something there. So it just was interesting. I was like, what is that? And I looked it up and went, oh, well, something interesting, a planet out there that might be useful at some point if we continue to destroy this planet as a species. There was also another space-related thing. This is something that I can show you. This is a picture of stunning morning clouds over Jezero crater captured by NASA Perseverance's nav cams a few hours ago on solar day 738. And there's a flicker version of it. So if it doesn't look really cool, that's what it looks like. There's a flicker version of it, supposedly, though. Let's see if the flicker version looks better. Yeah, that might be a little bit better. But that is an actual cloud on Mars. So now you can say you saw a cloud on Mars. This is something that's in this thing. This is an article by Robert Reich. There's a deeper story to Silicon Valley Bank's failure. What can we learn from it, says Robert Reich. Financial deregulation led to the crash in 08 and could again in 23. It's time to make banking boring again. On Friday, regulators closed Silicon Valley Bank. It's based in Santa Clara. Its failure was the second largest in U.S. history and the largest since financial crisis of 08. Will other banks fail? On Sunday, regulators closed New York-based Signature Bank as they rushed to contain the fallout. Government regulators at the Federal Reserve, Treasury, and Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation announced in a key joint statement on Sunday that depositors at SVB would have access to all their money starting Monday. They'll enact a similar program for SB. They stressed that bank losses would not be borne by taxpayers but by bank shareholders. So what happened? The service story of SVB debacle is straightforward. During the pandemic, startups and technology companies enjoyed heady profits, some of which they deposited in SVB, flush with the cash. The bank did what banks do. It kept a fraction on hand and invested the rest, putting a large share into long-dated treasury bonds that promised good returns when interest rates were low. But then starting a little more than a year ago, the Fed raised interest rates from near zero to over 4.5%. As a result, two things happened. The value of SVB holdings on treasury bonds plummeted because newer bonds paid more interest. As interest rates rose, the gusher of venture capital funding to startup and tech companies slowed because venture funds had to pay more to borrow money. As a result, these startup and tech companies had to withdraw more of their money from the bank to meet their payrolls and other expenses. But the bank didn't have enough money on hand. There's a deeper story here. Remember the scene from It's a Wonderful Life where Stewart's character tries to call a run on his bank by explaining to depositors that their money went to loans and others in the same community. If they just be patient, they get their deposits back. Yes, I certainly remember one of my favorite movies. In the early 30s, such bank runs were common, but the Roosevelt administration enacted laws and regulations requiring banks to have more money on hand, barring them from investing their depositors' money for profit in the Glass-Steagall Act, ensuring deposits and tightly overseeing the bank's banking became more secure and boring. But Robert Reich continues. That lasted into the 80s when Wall Street financiers, seeing the potential for big money, pushed to dismantle these laws and regulations. Under who? Under Reagan, of course, culminating in 99 when Bill Clinton and Congress repealed what remained of Glass-Steagall. Then, of course, came the '08 financial crisis, the worst collapse since 29, as a direct result of financial deregulation. Alan Greenspan, chairman of the Federal Reserve from '87 to '06, called it a once in a century credit tsunami. I remember that. But pressed by critics, Greenspan acknowledged that the crisis had forced him to rethink his free market ideology. I had found a flaw. He told a congressional committee, I made a mistake. I was shocked. Shocked? Really? Robert Reich will never let him hear the end of that. Once banking was deregulated, such a crash was inevitable. In the 50s and 60s, when banking was boring, the financial sector accounted for just 10 to 15% of corporate profits. Deregulation made finance exciting and exceedingly profitable. Well, yeah. By the mid-'80s, the financial sector claimed 30% of corporate profits, and by '01, by which time Wall Street had become a giant betting parlor in which the house took a big share of the bets, it claimed a whopping 40%. That was more than 4 times the profits made in all U.S. manufacturing. Wasn't Reich the one that advised Clinton, though? I mean, did Clinton not listen to him at this time? Need a drink. Correct me if I'm wrong, people, though. I thought Robert Reich was in the Clinton administration. Or was he in Obama? I'm probably getting mixed up. Robert Reich. No.
Here are some pictures that match.
No. Not that last name, Google. You didn't hear me pronounce it correctly. I'm going to have to type it in. He was Secretary of Labor. Okay, so he wasn't financing money. Was it Obama? Secretary of Labor from 93 to 97. That should have been Clinton. So I was right. Sometimes I don't trust my memory, though. When the bubble burst in '08, Bush administration moved to protect investment banks. Treasury Secretary at the time, Mr. Paulson, former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Timothy Geithner, president of Fed, arranged a rescue of investment firm Bear Stearns, but allowed Lehman Brothers to go under. Stock market crashed. AIG, insurance signed and had written hundreds of billions worth of credit. Just faced collapse. So did Citigroup. And then he goes into detail what Paulson asked Congress how much money he wanted to bail out. Obama endorsed the Wall Street bailout and appointed a team of Clinton-era economic advisors. These were the same people working under Rubin in the '90s that prepared the way for the financial crisis by deregulating Wall Street. In the end, the Obama administration rescued Wall Street, but at enormous cost to taxpayers and economy. Estimates of the true cost of the bailout vary from half a trillion to several trillion. Federal Reserve also provided huge subsidies to the big banks in the form of virtually free loans. And this is all the stuff that people are worried about now. They're worried about Biden doing the same thing. And people are worried about homeowners and losing their homes again. And then, of course, Dodd-Frank was put into law. Requiring the banks to hold a certain amount of cash on their balance sheets. So there would be some cash. They wouldn't like invest all of it and then lose everything. Which brings us to the failure of the Silicon Valley Bank. Yeah, because Dodd-Frank was removed. So that he's blaming the Fed for raising the interest rates and destroying the cushion, because the banks had to spend more money to get money to loan to other people. They had to pay the Fed more money because even the thin protections of Dodd-Frank were rolled back by Trump, yes, who signed a bill in 2018 that reduced scrutiny over many regional banks and removed a requirement that banks with assets under 250 billion submit to stress testing and reduce the amount of cash they had to keep on their balance sheets to protect against shock. This freed smaller banks such as Silicon Valley and Signature Bank to invest more of their deposits and make more money of their shareholders. So they invested more money, but they did so with greater risk. The SVB chief executive, Glenn Becker, had been a strong supporter of Trump's rollback and had served on the San Francisco Federal Board of Directors, And then this is what I saw in the news this morning, and Becker sold $3.6 million of this SVB stock. Could have been coincidental, but it seems and smells awful. Yes, it does, Robert. Will the failure of SVB be as contagious as the failures of 2008? Leading to other failures, depositors grow nervous about their safety. It's impossible to know. The speed with which regulators moved over the weekend suggests their concern. Wall Street crisis of 2008 began with one or two bank failures, as did 1929. 4 lessons from the debacle, says Robert Reich. The Fed should hold up raising interest rates until it has done a thorough appraisal of consequences for smaller banks. When the Fed rapidly raises interest rates, it must be better to monitor banks that have invested heavily in treasury bonds. The Trump regulatory rollbacks of financial regulations are dangerous. Small banks can get into huge trouble, setting up potential contagion to other banks. Dodd-Frank must be reinstated. Yes. More broadly, not even Dodd-Frank is adequate to make banking boring again instead of one of the most profitable parts of the economy. Glass-Steagall must be reenacted, separating commercial from investment banking. There's no good reason banks should be investing their depositors' money for a profit. And then this closes out the article. What this article does not tell you, though, is this article does tell you that the SVB CEO sold off part of his stock, but the news story that I sold says that the other bank, scroll to the top and get the name of the other bank. The news story that I saw today said that the CEO of Signature Bank, or somebody that had stock in it, but I'm pretty sure it was the CEO, also sold off some of his stock. Coincidental? I think not. Do 10 o'clock. Eastern Time. This week's animal story. This week's animal story: an endangered tortoise becomes father of 3 for first time, aged 90. So there is the thing, and I guess there is video. Is there better video in here? Probably. I hope BBC doesn't mind if we show this video. Well, we got an ad. So we'll mute the ad so that the music in the ad doesn't do too much. But the ad is almost over. If you can't see the counter, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's a big deal for us. One of the problems is just these animals are exploited for the pet trade. He's the oldest animal in the zoo, been here since the 80s. And so it's very exciting for staff and for our guests to get to see that. He's well known around the zoo. And as that increased, their numbers have plummeted. But then our job, being outside of there, is to take the population we have and try to manage it so that if that does collapse, that we don't necessarily lose these animals altogether.
Okay. So hopefully that didn't violate BBC's copyright. Hopefully they didn't mind. Please go see BBC for more stories like that. Hopefully that'll make them happy. I have a couple of versions of this. I'm going to read the description first. The smile on his face says it all. 1 year ago, Orange County Master Deputy Harold Hal Davis was seriously injured while at home doing yard work and was unable to walk. Throughout this past year, Hal was focused on walking his daughter down the aisle at her wedding. Today, he reached that goal. Here he is, beautiful bride Hannah, down the aisle, making so many prayers and dreams come true. We're so happy for Hal and his entire family. Hal is continuing with significant rehabilitation and further treatment. If you'd like to support Hal in his recovery efforts, visit Hal's fundraiser at www.gofundme.com/F/HELP-HAL walk HAL-walk- again. So I will put that up on screen when I'm done showing the video. I would do the audio, but the audio is from a movie. And so the music of the audio is definitely a copyright violation. I guess the sheriff can get away with it. I doubt that I can, given what kind of audio it is. I won't attempt to sing the song. I will just say that it's the song that is in a movie about vampires. And a vampire marrying a, let's see, I lost my, okay, that's the one I want. A vampire marrying a human in, let me get that back to where it belongs. So this is the deputy walking his daughter down the aisle. And the lyrics to the song would go, I would die, something, something, waiting for you. Something, something, 1,000 years. The song is called 1,000 Years. I think it's by Christina Perry. You can look that up on YouTube. That's what's playing behind them. So this is the deputy and his daughter. So yeah, that's a real touching moment. Now to stop sharing and put the GoFundMe up there. Let me copy that and put that in StreamYard. And show that. That's the GoFundMe. So I'll leave that up for a little bit. And I think I got something from producer. No, yes. Yes, I do have a new one. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you've copied that down. We can go. I'm a Debbie Downer. Am I supposed to be a Debbie Downer? I don't know. Hi, Elizabeth. Unless he's talking about the presence of anything from Trump. Close some of these tabs. I have too many tabs open. So the thing by Amy Lofgren says the email lady will not be getting arrested on Tuesday, but this podcast is booked for the day. Yes, so true. We have another one. The truth is, the average couple getting married today has more like a 75% of staying married. That means that only about 1 in 4 recent marriages are likely to end in divorce. So, this one's about Ron DeSantis. Christina Pashaw, spokeswoman for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, has registered as a foreign agent of former Georgian President Mikhail. I'm not going to try to say his last name. Retroactively disclosing work she conducted for him between 2018 and 2020. Pashaw's attorney, Michael Sherman, has confirmed that the disclosure was made following contact from U.S. Justice Department. So his press agent was working for Russia. Terry says, I wonder what photos or video Putin has of DeSantis. And the article's in the Washington Post, which I can't open, but you can if you're a Washington Post subscriber. So, okay. She only did it because she got caught. Yes. So how you doing tonight, all of you? You got a hot topic that you discussed in chat that I didn't discuss? Benny Loco, we're glad you didn't hang yourself. Garland exhausted the privilege claims in court, flushed out Trump judges, and exhausted appeals. All that's left is to indict. I hope so. I'm just sorting or starting. Okay. Got another one coming in. So this is the Glenn Kirshner. Glenn Kirshner tweets, Trump posts about his arrest, urges protests. New York District Attorney Bragg reassures his employees of their safety because justice matters. So this is a Glenn Kirshner video, which we will look at.
So, friends, former President Donald Trump pushes, and New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg pushes back. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, as I'm sure you're well aware, New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg is poised to indict Donald Trump in what would represent the first prosecution of a criminal former president of the United States. Now, we have had other criminal former presidents of the United States. In fact, we've had former criminal presidents who have gone unprosecuted for their crimes. Richard Nixon comes to mind. Well, maybe we have finally learned our lesson. And predictably, Donald Trump has resorted once again to encouraging violence as his response to the prospect of being held accountable for his crimes. He's done it before. He has priors. January 6th. Recall how Donald Trump set the date and the agenda for the January 6th attack on the Capitol, tweeting, "Big protest in DC on January 6th. Be there, will be wild." And on January 6th, violence ensued. And now he's at it again. Donald Trump has posted, in Manhattan, he will be arrested on Tuesday. Protest, take our nation back. And of course, Donald Trump expects and intends violence to again ensue. Let's break this down using the simplest possible analogy. Let's say that January 6th wasn't an attack on the Capitol that Donald Trump launched, trying to unlawfully and unconstitutionally retain the power of the presidency. Let's say that on January 6th, Donald Trump robbed a bank. And in preparation for the bank robbery, the FBI knows, the FBI has evidence that, let's see, Donald Trump bought a ski mask, Donald Trump bought a handgun, Donald Trump stole a car to use as the getaway vehicle. He then robbed the bank wearing the mask, wielding the gun, using the stolen car as his getaway vehicle. And the FBI began investigating the bank robbery. And let's assume that for whatever reason, the FBI wasn't quite prepared to arrest Donald Trump, to indict Donald Trump for his January 6th bank robbery. But all of a sudden, the FBI sees that Donald Trump is out there buying another ski mask. Donald Trump is out there buying another handgun. Donald Trump just stole another car. What's he going to do? What the hell do you think he's going to do? He's going to do it all over again. But it's not a bank robbery. It is inciting a violent riot for his own personal or political reasons. How about we not let him do it? DOJ, if you're listening, Donald Trump is a federal criminal. Donald Trump is a federal problem, and for that, we need a federal solution, federal indictments. You know, this is too big and too dangerous to our democracy to leave it up to a local district attorney to deal with. But deal with it, Alvin Bragg must at this point. And here is the new reporting about that. This from Axios. Manhattan District Attorney reassures staff of their safety after Trump protest call. And that article begins, Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg reassured staff in a memo Saturday that efforts to intimidate them or threaten the rule of law will not be tolerated. The move comes after former President Trump issued a call on social media Saturday for his supporters to protest in light of what he claimed is his impending arrest. Citing illegal leaks from the Manhattan District Attorney's office, Trump wrote that he would be arrested on Tuesday amid the office's investigation into a hush money payment allegedly made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Quote, protest, take our nation back, Trump wrote. And that prompted this letter to his employees by New York District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Dear colleagues, I'm sure you've seen the ongoing press attention and public comments surrounding an ongoing investigation by this office. Please know that your safety is our top priority. We have full confidence in our outstanding security staff and investigators, along with our great OCA and NYPD colleagues, and will continue to coordinate with all of them. We do not tolerate attempts to intimidate our office or threaten the rule of law in New York. Our law enforcement partners will ensure that any specific or credible threats against the office will be fully investigated and that the proper safeguards are in place so all 1,600 of us have a secure work environment. This office is full of the finest public servants in the country. I am committed to maintaining a safe work environment where everyone is able to continue to serve the public with the same diligence and professionalism that make this institution so renowned. In the meantime, as with all of our investigations, we will continue to apply the law evenly and fairly and speak publicly only when appropriate. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact your supervisor and we will work to answer them quickly and thoroughly as possible. Thank you, Alvin. So that letter, written by a local district attorney to his employees, promising to keep them safe, was necessitated by a criminal former president of the United States posting, again, a call to his supporters to take their country back. And this, friends, is what happens when you fail to hold a criminal former president of the United States accountable for his crimes. Let's hope that's about to change, because justice matters. Friends, as always, thank you for tuning in to these daily Justice Matters videos. As you may know, we are an all-volunteer outfit here. We post a legal analysis video every day, 7 days a week, and we couldn't do it without your support. So if you would like to more formally support our all-volunteer efforts, our mission, our content, please feel free to come on over to patreon.com. You can sign up to become a patron, and if you do, I will send you some Team Justice and Justice Matters stickers and a personal handwritten note of thanks. And as always, friends, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again soon.
So that's Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner. We use his content with his permission each week that we use it. So please check out his channel. You'll see a banner on our video each week as we do that says it contains his content. And so, yeah, we really love him. He gives us a really good video every week to give his take on justice. Y'all want to go back before I was born. Y'all don't. If y'all do go back to 1960, please don't mess up. He does a video every day, not just once a week. Thank you. You want to go forward past the wars. So obviously Wes Webb has seen the movie The Time Machine. Hmm. Yeah, he should be in the seat of government. You've seen a bunch of different time travel movies. So have I, Wes. In fact, one night I was watching, I don't remember what channel it was. I think it was some streaming channel, and I saw an old time travel movie. It was very interesting one. Should have wrote it down so I could tell you which one it was. No, it's not that tab. Which tab is it? It's that one. Okay. So there's a Midas Test says, okay, but will Trump be tried as an adult? And the reaction is, I just spit out my drink since Trump is always acting like a baby. So that's one that is a question. So let's see, maybe we can find the original tweet for that. Okay, but will Trump be tried as an adult? Yeah, it just says that. It doesn't say anything else. It's not not necessarily not responding to anything. It's just Midas touch saying that. Well, that is a good question, big baby. Hey, Trucker John. Trucker John, you got any topics you want to talk about tonight? Webb telescope. What do we have new? Webb telescope. That's interesting. James Webb telescope. Images. There's some stuff. I don't know. What looks interesting? What's the prettiest thing you can find? What gets me is the size of these images, and I don't know if it's the choice. I mean, you really want to like look at this on something else, and I don't know why it's so limited. I would think this would be prettier than this, but it's like a picture supposedly dissecting a black hole, and this is what the picture looks like. And to me, I want to be able to like click on this and see this in full high-res detail, but it just doesn't show up that way, and I don't know why. I mean, that ought to expand to a big picture, but it doesn't. So I don't know why it doesn't. I have no idea why that doesn't present as a high definition image. Not even to me. I mean, if it reduced what you saw, that'd be one thing, but so we have a Tony Michaels. Come on. There you go. Tony Michaels says Grandpa's diapers are full of shit again. Why is he saying that? He's saying that because Donald Trump put out his Truth Social. Biden wants to pretend he has nothing to do with the Manhattan DA's assault on democracy when, in fact, he has stuffed the DA's office with Department of Injustice people, including one top DOJ operative from the DC was actually running the horse-faced witch hunt. Donald Trump, if you call it the Department of Injustice, why isn't it called the DOI operative? Bragg is a Soros racist in reverse who is taking his orders from DC. Well, a racist in reverse is basically a non-racist. So he might be a non-racist. Yeah, that you might be right. I beat them twice, doing much better the second time, but despite their disinformation campaign, they don't want to run against the Trump or my great record. Ha, 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 ha. Trump, you're just out of there. Not only should they put him in jail, they should have to paint a Russian flag over his face. Since he wants to be pro-Russia, pro-this, pro-that. Rick Wilson. What do we have from Rick Wilson? What do we got? Here we go. Rick Wilson in response to a Trump Truth Social. Rick Wilson asked, "You okay?" Because Trump is saying, just reported that the most important witness to go before the New York City grand jury, a highly respected lawyer who once represented convicted felon, jailbird, and serial fake storyteller and liar Michael Cohen, will be doing so tomorrow afternoon. The information he will present will supposedly be conclusive and irrefutable. Witch hunt. Yep, his favorite phrase. Okay. This is Dershowitz. Something about Dershowitz. Come on, come on. Okay. So this is coming to us through Ron Filipowski. Gershow says the reason why Trump's hush money payment to Stormy Daniels isn't a crime is because it was made to hide the incident from Melania not to help his campaign. He also says Trump has no chance because New York juries are unfair.
Being accused of a campaign contribution when an important reason for the settlement obviously was to avoid embarrassment, to avoid problems with his family. That's not the basis for a criminal prosecution. But I have to tell you, even if he is indicted, he will be indicted. In New York, you can indict a ham sandwich. And in New York City, you can convict a ham sandwich because the jury pool is so unfair. Being accused of a campaign contribution when an important reason for the settlement obviously was to avoid embarrassment.
So he's saying that a ham sandwich could get convicted of a crime in New York City as if everything, defense lawyers defending people that are wrongfully accused. Get that video, use that video, and say that's your defense, as if that would work. Won't work for him, and it won't work for them either. So. This one is apparently funny. So let's see together what's funny about it. So this is a joke of some kind. Just, what do you mean I'm too controlling? You heard me. The dad joke. Trump is a ham sandwich? I hope so. So apparently our producer wants you to laugh. The last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last 8 items have been from our producer. All the other items that you saw tonight were from me. Those are the things that I chose. Yeah, I heard. So funny. Funny. I'm getting sleepy-eyed. I hope you don't mind. How about yourselves? Have you had enough show for tonight? We have almost a little over 2 hours and 40 minutes worth of show. Carl says I have to run. Yeah. Good night, Carl. I'm getting sleepy-eyed, and I should probably go and pull this together next week. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, mods. Thank you for the contributions to tonight's show, especially our producer and the people that wrote earlier. And those of you that didn't tune in because you didn't see the start time change, I'm sorry about that. We'll try to stick to the regular time of 7 or 7:15 Eastern next time. So we'll see. And go see about that. Thank you, Trucker John. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Casper Northerner. Thanks, Elizabeth. Thanks, Jolie. Thanks, Benny Loco. Thanks, Rosebud. Thanks, ADMFLA Girl 38. Jim the Geek. Carl Smith. Wes Webb. And everybody that was here earlier that checked in. We did have Nathaniel and somebody else on Facebook. Gosh, I'm drawing blank on names. See, you can tell I'm tired when I can't remember names. Autonauts. Yeah, I have to come up with a thing for that. I have to come up with a thing for Autonauts, like wading through things. And Nick Rich, yes, Nick Rich is out there somewhere. Trying to think of the person that was on Facebook, and I'm going to get in trouble for not knowing a name. But there was somebody on Facebook earlier. So thinking of who that was. It was Heidi that was on Facebook earlier. So, and if anybody else was out there that didn't chime in and say anything, or if you're watching later, thank you for watching. This is Freedom Speech and You. I'm Ken, your host. We'll be back next week with new topics and new things to talk about. We'll listen to the audience because the audience has an input, as long as the audience is civil. And we thank you for being a wonderful civil audience tonight. We'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye. Hey, I seldom hide the close, but when I forget a name, thank you for being here, Jolie. Forgot to thank you too. So yes, thank you so much for being here, all of you. And if I forgot a name, it was not intentional. Okay, see you all next week. It's my free Matthew Broderick impersonation. What? The show is over? You're still here? And my extra ounce of thought. My, you're dedicated viewers. Thanks for watching. Bye.